welcome to Wrestling Royalty. It is, of course, Friday night, and I, of course, am joined by Mr. Sam Smith. And we are here today. We are going to be talking about, as you can see from the title, it is SummerSlam tomorrow night, and it is the biggest party of the summer. So we're here to preview all the action and give you a few predictions, but we're going to do things a little bit differently, as we'll explain right after this. As before, welcome to Wrestling Royalty, and it's really good to see you here on a Friday evening. As always, it's always a pleasure to have Sam with me. Sam, how the heck are you doing?
All right, busy week. Looking forward to a bit of a chilled out weekend. It's been a complicated week, so I'm going to hopefully have a nice, relaxing weekend, and then wake up afresh Monday morning. I think is the plan.
Well, you're wishing your weekend away already. What's...
Oh, no, hell no. I'm going to milk it. I'm going to nurse. You know when you're driving and you're at a meal and you can only have that one pint because you've got to drive home. So you nurse that pint like it's the last pint on earth. That's what I'm going to do with this weekend. I'm going to nurse this weekend like it's the last weekend on earth.
Well, or suck every drop of the
week.
That's it. So yes, we are here tonight. We're going to be talking about SummerSlam, and there's a reason why we're kind of going to go through this quite quickly, really, because my good friend Sam is actually going to be doing 3 streams tonight, including this one, and there is such a thing as YouTube burnout, and he would be at risk this evening of doing that. So he's going to do this one, and he's going to move on to the Gimme a Hull Yeah prediction and preview show of SummerSlam as well, so you can catch us not too long after this will finish. I believe it's 10:30. Is that right?
Yeah, the next one starts at 10:30. It's basically the same thing, and again, you're welcome as well. But again, we've got like an hour and a half if we need to. Is the thing is, as far as I'm concerned, now I'm on now for the long haul. So as long as I get a chance to get my kind of monster before the 1 a.m. SmackDown stream, I'm all right. So this is just my night now. I've got my armchair. Get a brew, get me monster, got some snacks. I'll be good.
So yeah, check out. So we've got our stream right now, and then if you're watching this at another point, then feel free to go and watch the preview of Gimme a Hull Yeah as well. If you are watching live or you're catching up right now, 10:30, you can switch across to Gimme a Hull Yeah, and then Sam will be taking you through like a night DJ all the way through to the early hours of the morning, because he'll also be covering SmackDown live as the go home SmackDown show. Ahead of, I presume it's in Detroit as well, is it? Are they already in Detroit for SmackDown, or are they elsewhere?
I don't know, I think so. They often have the go-home show. I'm already yawning. It's only the first stream. I am screwed. But no, it's, I imagine it's in Detroit, but we'll find out soon enough. I swear Google could shed some light on that, but...
So anyone who's been, watching or kind of their timeline on X or Twitter, whatever you want to kind of call it these days, you'll see that the WWE are currently or have been doing their media activities this morning. So you'll see some interviews going around with some of our friends in the wrestling biz, and I'm sure there'll be lots of things coming out in the next few days. I did see someone from the Mirror interviewed Shayna Baszler, and she was talking about Warhammer 40K. So apparently a lot of that got stripped out, though, so I'm sure you'll find it at some point. But good to see Shayna Baszler's doing a lot of the press at the moment, because as you can see, you'll see from myself, you'll see from the guys at WrestleSphere, we had an interview with Shayna Baszler at Money in the Bank, and she's great to talk to. She's not as scary as she appears when she's in the ring, and she's got all of her makeup and would literally break your arm if you were in there with her. She's very nice. But look forward to seeing some of the interviews that are coming out from Detroit. So let me chuck up here we go. We'll chuck up a few slides. We'll go through the card. So I would imagine it's probably going to be early on, or if they use it somewhere as like a bit of a lull. I must admit, I've got zero idea of what the kind of card order is going to be, other than the tribal chief is going on in the main event. That's almost a guarantee. As Sam yawns for the second time.
Oh no! What's going on? I've just had a cup of tea, so hopefully that'll kick in. Who knows? And I'll grab I'll get me monster before the next stream, and maybe a coffee later. So I'll keep going. I'll survive. Don't worry. Just ignore me when I yawn.
So we'll start with the SummerSlam Slim Jim Battle Royale, or Battle Royal, however you want to kind of say that. The interesting news, I think it broke yesterday or the day before, Slim Jim have signed a new commercial deal with WWE, which is apparently the most lucrative sponsorship in wrestling history. So Slim Jim, a bit of a shout out to the past. If you have never seen it, go and watch the Slim Jim adverts and stuff that Macho Man Randy Savage used to do. They're fantastic, back from the 80s and early 90s, etc. So definitely go check out some of that stuff. But yeah, Slim Jim is back and sponsoring the Battle Royale. I keep saying that. I don't know if it's just a Battle Royal. I like to say Royale.
I say Royale.
Wrestling royality. So let's start here. What's your predictions? Are we going to see everyone's favourite at the moment go over, or are they going to go in a different direction? What's your thoughts?
See, I think Grayson Waller's winning this.
Ooh.
Or we're going to see someone return and come back. Maybe AJ. I don't know if he's still injured. But everybody's screaming for LA Knight to win it. But what does the winner get from this Battle Royal?
Well, I don't think they've announced anything. So the grand sum of nothing.
Exactly. So it's like the value here isn't winning the Battle Royal. It's storylines being created there and coming out of it. So I'm of the view that LA Knight is going to be the favourite to win it. He's going to get all the way to the second man. Then they're going to do that switcheroo, someone hiding under the ring thing. Someone's going to kick him out, and boom, you finally got a proper feud for LA Knight since his Bray Wyatt one. Because anything he's done since that, do you even remember it? So he wasn't meant to get over. He is over. WWE seem like they're doing something with it now. I think he's going to get screwed out of a victory here. And that'll be the story moving forward. It's too easy just to like, and people go, he should win it because he's the one we've chose. Trust the process. Like him winning it is great, but it's just one thing. What matters more is him being factored in moving forward, and a feud factors him in moving forward, not just a cheap victory at a pay-per-view.
Fair enough. That's difficult to argue with. There are rumours that a certain electrifying one, the great one, is going to turn up, who's had a little bit of beef with Grayson Waller as well. So if Grayson Waller is to win, there is a potential that could lead into something. So maybe not a bad shout. I'd be happy to see Grayson Waller. And if it is Grayson Waller who kind of dumps out LA Knight when the crowd is firmly behind Knight, then that will be an awesome promo battle that these guys can have, and a good program for both of them.
Yeah.
It's the back end of the year. So would definitely not be against that. So good shout.
Also, it would create nuclear heat for Waller. And at the moment, he's just been kind of a budget Miz. And we know he's worth a lot more than that. We know, like, Miz is great, but we know he's got a ton of potential. Like, look at him in NXT, and a lot of the wider fans might not know that. So the best thing, like, it was the big Johnny Gargano moment when he brutalized Johnny Gargano that really cemented him as a villain in NXT, wasn't it? He hasn't had that moment on the main roster, and this could be it. He needs that. So I think are they on different brands though? Is one of them on Raw and one of them on SmackDown? But that's easily fixable.
Waller's definitely on SmackDown. LA Knight's on SmackDown as well, so they're both on SmackDown. Oh,
boom! In that case, bang! There you go. There you go, WWE. I'm doing your job for you. You're welcome.
You name dropped The Miz there. I saw earlier today that The Miz has been announced. I can't remember who it was who's done the kind of data behind it, but The Miz has got the most defeats in WWE history. He's lost the most matches, and it's not even close. The person who's behind him's retired. I think it's 15 seconds, so it's not exactly like he's catching him. And the most, who would you guess is the most winning male superstar in WWE history?
Hulk Hogan.
I'm pretty sure I'm remembering it. It's Bret Hart. So yeah, very interesting. I didn't see that. I think even Roman Reigns is like miles behind. By the way, he's not even that close. So it's.
Oh no, he won't be. He's still a baby. He's the big dog's still a puppy. In many ways.
Yeah. Brian, nice to see you in, mate. Who's also. I don't really, anyone who's watched NXT always seems to be very high on Waller. So, Brian's saying the same here. Standout performer. over NXT. I completely agree. You will never ever hear me or Sam kind of say anything bad about Grayson Waller, and it's really cool that he's getting his opportunity to shine as well on the main roster. Question for you though, Brian: do you see Waller winning here, or who's your pick for the Battle Royal moving forward? Let us know in the comments as we move on. And as I said in my preview on Rush on Rock, I'm going to count how many times the word viral is said during this match, because that would be quite a few. So this is a match where it's a very strange one. People kind of complain that Ricochet never really gets the storyline. He never gets a big rival to have. Well, he's finally got one. He's finally got a match at SummerSlam, a big kind of match, I would say, as well. Good lead up. What's been your thoughts on this? Is this just going to be a spot fest, or are we going to actually see a decent match here?
We know both men are perfectly capable of putting on a good match. So I think we are going to get a good match. But I kind of want it to be a little bit of a spot fest as well, because these guys together, like, remember the Royal Rumble, that moment, one of the most fun things I've ever seen in a Royal Rumble. It's okay if this is a little bit of a spot fest. It's okay. That's kind of what I want it to be. I thought Ricochet's promos have been a little bit ropey in the build up to this whole feud. I think some people have liked it. I'd turn him heel and put these guys as a tag team or something. That's what I'd do. But I think it's great to see Ricochet on the main card. It should be the other way around in a parallel universe, but being in there with Logan Paul, who's a big star, it does put Ricochet up. It puts Ricochet on the map. If Ricochet can get a win over Paul, it'll be really good for his career. Ultimately, though, if Paul beats him and makes Ricochet into an even more plucky babyface, yeah, I'm into this. I think this is... there's a lot of people just go, the minute Logan Paul's involved. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't like his energy drink. I don't watch his podcast. I don't watch him on YouTube. I haven't ever watched one of his boxing matches, but I love him in WWE. That's all I know. All I know about Logan Paul is he's a guy from YouTube who now does a bit of WWE and appears at the big pay-per-views. And I've not seen him put on a bad match or a bad promo yet. I'm just like, what's there not to like about this guy in WWE? Like, everything outside of that, I don't care about. But as far as WWE is concerned, I want this guy around. And if he was crap, if he was like awful in the ring and awful on the mic, I'd be like, yeah, all right, you've got a point. Why is this guy still here? But he's not. So everyone needs to shut up. It's as simple as that, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. If you don't know his kind of misgivings and his kind of past things that, you know, has been caught up in and really is put on himself, then I would struggle to see how you wouldn't like him. He's very athletic. He's very kind of charismatic. A little bit maybe work that needs to be done on his live promos, because it does feel scripted at times where he's still kind of relying on that. Whereas you see him on his, if you do watch him on his chat show and impulsive YouTube channel, then he's quite good at interviewing people. So it's a bit strange that there's a bit of a disconnect there. But I like the stuff that they did on the other night with Samantha Irvin. It's very difficult to kind of say anything too negative about Logan Paul, the wrestler, as you say. So here, I would be surprised if he loses, purely on the basis that you've got to look at him from the point of view of he's not won since he tagged with The Miz, right? Or sorry, he beat The Miz as well. But then he's lost Rollins, he's lost in the Money in the Bank, and he needs a win if he's going to kind of be legitimate. And people will start kind of pointing that out if he loses here as well. And let's face it, in this one, Ricochet doesn't need to win. They just need to put on the biggest spot. And that's going to be what everyone's waiting for, is how are they going to execute a bigger thing than they did at the Rumble, a bigger thing than they did at Money in the Bank. And that's what this match is going to be about. So I wouldn't even put it past them that one of them is going to have like some sort of camera on them to get some insane like angle or something. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do. And I think everyone's going to be waiting for that one moment, and then it'll go viral on Facebook and X and whatever. So Brian can't stand Logan Paul, but he is very talented and hard work in the ring. Heat magnet. Again, difficult to argue with that. I think that's how most people feel, to be honest. When it comes to Logan Paul, you've got to give him his props. I think there's a lot of celebrities that wouldn't do half the stuff that he does. That Spanish Fly at Money in the Bank looked pretty gnarly because of the slip. So they've done well to kind of turn this into an angle, and it's definitely one that I think people will be tuned in for, and we'll see.
Also, I'm not calling it X. I'm not doing it. Just like Pete Dunne is Pete Dunne, not Butch. Walter is Walter, not Gunther. There's no amount. You can put a gun to my head, threaten my family, take away everything from me. I will not refer to it as X. It's Twitter. And this thing, like even like, I guarantee he's going to throw in the towel, and he'll eventually call it Twitter X. It'll be like Twitter 2.0, Twitter X. Like the guy is. He's gone full on Bond villain. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore. He's just throwing mud at a wall and seeing what will stick. Anyway, tangent.
Just to play devil's advocate, do you call him X-Pac or do you call him 1-2-3 Kid?
He's X-Pac, but he's always been well.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, well, 1-2-3 Kid is great, but X-Pac is his wrestler name. Like Twitter is. Well,
Twitter. He was 1-2-3 Kid, so you can't like say that that's not like you'll never ever call anyone by a new name. It's like it's not like it's
no. There's plenty of, like Drew McIntyre used to be Drew Galloway. I'm happy to call him Drew McIntyre. That name change made complete sense and didn't poo all over everything.
Wait, hold on. He was never Drew Galloway in WWE, though. He was always Drew McIntyre, wasn't he?
I know. That's what I'm saying. But like Drew McIntyre, I don't mind name changes. But this whole, they've got to be necessary. Like Volta was a great name. They didn't need to change him to Gunther. Yeah, Volta.
Right. So
everyone mispronounced it. The thing is, everyone mispronounced it.
Lee. I know you don't like Wes Lee, but if you say it how it could be and just say Walter. Is there really any difference between Walter and Gunther?
Yes, because they wanted to call him Gunther Stark, and a swift Google will tell you why that is the stupidest idea WWE has ever had since the incest angle. But before that, like he wasn't Walter, he was Volta. In Austrian, it works. Gunther is the guy who serves the friends coffee in that 90s sitcom.
I know, is it not Gunther?
Well, yeah, I suppose it is. But no one says Gunther. They say, I don't understand why you have
Matt Volta says it very well, to be fair.
Yeah, it's just that there are some name changes that are good and some are diabolical. And back to whatever Elon Musk is doing with Twitter, it's... It won't last. I promise you now. I'll bet my car that this doesn't last. But yeah, back to Volta versus Drew McIntyre.
I was going to say, speaking of lasting, I think this could be one that gets a good 20 minutes or a good long while anyway, because this is the kind of big homecoming for Drew. Yes, we saw him at Money in the Bank, but this is his first like big match since his return, early in July. So what can you say? This is going to be along the same lines as Sheamus's match, surely, with Gunther at Clash of the Castle, or will it be? Have you got any other thoughts on that, or are you expecting a bit of a banger here?
See, I'm a little bit worried, because part of me thinks they're going to break Honky Tonk Man's record, and I want them to. I want Gunther to. I can't say it now. To hold this, so I suppose I give him with Gunther. I'm not going to give him with Twitter or Pete Dunne. Right. Because that is the best out of all three. But right, yeah. Here's the thing though: if Balor wins the heavyweight title and Roman Reigns retains, which he's probably going to, you can't just have 4 heel champs. And I think they could sacrifice Austin Theory. He's the obvious choice at this point because his reign can come to an end now. Like organically, he's done well. He had the Mania thing, but I can see them flipping the other 2 belts onto baby faces. And McIntyre, obviously, there's a lot of rumor and speculation. But if McIntyre coming back has been part of, he's going to win the IC title as a sweetener for him to come back, and then maybe if they're turning Sheamus heel. And having Sheamus versus McIntyre, that kind of writes itself. So I'm a little bit worried for Gunther in this match. I think Drew could beat him. I love Drew, and I want him to beat everyone all the time, but I'm loving this title reign by Gunther. I think he could be the next big thing in this company, as well as Drew. But I would protect Gunther here, but I also, it depends what happens on the rest of the card. Like whatever happens here might dictate what happens later on in the card as well. It's an interesting. Everything's bleeding into each other with Triple H's booking, and I'm feeling it. But when some things happen on these cards, you can then bet your bottom dollar other things will.
Yeah, I'll read you a quote from Drew that he's. I don't know who Stay Busy are, but they're the outlet that are carrying this quote, which is, "I'm willing to go any direction that is interesting. People are calling for a heel turn, but I'm not willing to do that unless it makes perfect sense. We have a lot of equity in Drew McIntyre. I show up at Special Olympics and see the effects WWE and McIntyre has on people, and I can understand Cena's perspective of not turning." So that sounds like a guy who maybe he's throwing something out there to kind of like swerve us, but it definitely feels genuine that he can kind of, he's not just going to move because there's no other baby faces or there's no other heels on that, that should be taking it. So if he does kind of change to be a heel, then it's got to be for a reason.
Yeah, I agree. Although that Finn Balor said something similar and then kicked AJ Styles in the face. But that was about 7 years coming, 7 or 8 years coming, that kick to the face. But yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think there's any sense in turning McIntyre heel at all. I think
not right now.
Not for a long time, because we've seen him as a heel and he was good, but he's a much better face. And like when his little ad libs and his cheekiness on the microphone really work well when he's a face, more than they do when he's just this gruff heel with his hair in front of his face. They said similar things about Reigns turning heel, but I think the differences between McIntyre and Reigns is it wasn't like McIntyre is probably the one sitting down the producers and saying, look, it makes sense for me to be a babyface for the foreseeable future. Roman Reigns was probably desperate to turn heel, desperate. And Vince McMahon was saying, nope, we're not doing it. Nope, the experiment's not over. We're going to keep pushing you down people's throats. And look what happened. The minute they turned Roman Reigns heel, became one of the greatest acts of all time. So, but the thing is with McIntyre, we've seen him as a heel. We've seen all that. And his strength right now is being a face, like Roman's strength right now is being a heel. And there's so much McIntyre can do as a babyface in this company, be it go up against people like Reigns or go up against people like Gunther, or if Sheamus decides to turn heel. There's lots of stuff they can do with a babyface Drew. I say keep him where he is. But I also kind of want to see the title stay on Gunther until maybe WrestleMania. And I'm happy for McIntyre to take it off in there.
Possibly. I know he's got to get through till middle of September-ish, I think, Gunther, with the IC title to be able to claim that record off of Honky Tonk Man, which it feels like they're going to do, but this is kind of the biggest test, I guess, to get through. But I was just thinking, like, looking at this picture that they've put out for the match, these two guys look like, they could be a main event of a wrestling promotion. So, and this is the kind of match where it's going to be a bit old school, very heavy hitting. It's going to be big, meaty men slapping meat, I would imagine. So lots of chops. I don't think this is going to be one for high flying action. So if it was me putting the card together, I would love to have this on after or before that Ricochet versus Logan Paul, because the style is so different, and it gives people a chance of a lot of people have said they're kind of not that fussed about the SummerSlam card. I think it's very well put together in the sense of there's something for everyone. So you've got that very fast-paced, high-flying action that we're expecting there, and then we'll get this one, which is the hard-hitting action as well. So I think Gunther's retaining, but I think it'll be a bit of a screwy finish, because this will be the one. We haven't seen it yet where he's had to use the rest of Imperium to get a win, because it's all about, the mat is sacred, etc. I think this is going to be the one where we see a bit of desperation to keep hold of that title, which we haven't seen so far, which I would be all for. So moving forward, you mentioned about Finn Balor before, and this is a match 7 years in the making, as they keep saying, and it looks like it's on the back of Seth's shoes for the weekend as well, or his boots, or whatever they are. And I did point out in my preview over on rushonrock.com, this is 7 years in the making, but that would put it in line with the likes of Stone Cold versus The Rock in terms of a feud. For me, it certainly doesn't feel that way. What about for yourself? A 7-year feud? Does it feel
No, I
like
think,
it's like that?
yeah, a little bit. I'll tell you why, because I think you have to be, if you're a Balor fan, it's very, like, I'm a big Balor fan, and I kind of feel a lot of what he's saying and a lot of what he's feeling as the heel is justified. Because if you look, like, him and Rollins have almost been on a path that keeps intersecting with each other.
Yeah.
And that's been told quite well. Like, they've been baby faces, they've helped each other quite a lot, but they always have to come back and face each other again. It is a little bit HBK, Bret Hart. It is a little bit The Rock, Stone Cold. I do a little bit Kenny Omega, Okada. I do feel like these guys are destined to do this forever, Batman and the Joker style, with each of them flipping those roles. Again, let's go back to the beginning of the Universal Championship. Balor was the new shiny toy. Balor was the thing everybody wanted to push off his big Bullet Club run in Japan. Had an epic NXT run, which I would argue was better than Rollins's. He came out, won that belt, beat. He was the baby face. He beat the heel, Seth Rollins, and never quite came back. Like, yeah, he's been back. Yeah, he's held the IC. Yeah, he's held the United. Has he held the United States as well? I think he has. He's held the NXT title again. He's done a lot. He's had a hell of a career, but he's not had another world title. Like, he's had matches against Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns when they've held one of the big ones. And even when WWE was punking out the WWE Championship in favor of the Universal Championship, he still never got his hands on that one. And now that those two have been unified into one and they've brought back what is essentially the big gold belt, he's now got his eyes set on that. Like, he might not win it yet. Like, the whole point of this story might be it's not his time yet, and maybe it never is his time. Maybe that's the story. But yeah, I'm actually feeling Finn's desperation. And as the heel, I'm really bought into this story because it like, they faced each other loads of times in that 7 years. So when they say 7 years in the making, they have faced each other multiple times before since that Universal title run. But it's not that the match is 7 years in the making so much, because they had it a few weeks ago when we were both there. But it's almost like this story needs to build to a crescendo. And I think the only place it can go logically is Finn getting that and going on a tear, and there being some kind of big seismic event within either Judgment Day, or perhaps Priest takes it off him or something like that. There's got to be a seismic event with this match. They can't just... I'll be very disappointed. Even if we have a great match and Rollins retains and everyone sings the song, I will be disappointed. That's not enough. I think this needs something now.
So I think that might be where I'm struggling a little bit with it, is because, to me, it should be about the belt. It should be about these two. But what's happened is they've almost muddied the water with the Judgment Day storyline, because it's more about Finn and, like, is Finn going to stop Damian Priest? Is Damian Priest going to get involved? Is he going to kind of, like, get involved and cash in? And I think it's, like, to me, this should have been more about the two of them. And it started to unravel slightly when the crowd hijacked Finn's emotional promo, when he was, like, really kind of wanting to get into it with, singing Seth Rollins' song. And that was where, for me, it started to unravel a little bit. And then
sorry, mate, go on.
I was going to say, Money in the Bank, I was a little bit kind of frustrated because it felt like they almost had the handbrake on while they were wrestling. It didn't feel like it was epic enough.
I think, in a way, I agree with you. You're right, but I also feel like that adds to the tragedy, in a way. That Balor came out and tried pouring his heart out to explain himself to the crowd, because to people like me, I feel it, I get it. But to the rest of them, he was just a heel being a heel, and that adds just another element of tragedy. He came out to tell you why he's right, and why this matters. But because we view wrestling through the lens of a babyface and a heel, we didn't listen, which makes the character even more frustrated, even more desperate, and it it kind of worked in its own way. It kind of worked. He's the guy who doesn't get the credit. And then with the Priest thing, well, let's imagine Balor does win and Priest takes it off him. He's been screwed again, out of it again. And you've then got not the smiley thin Balor babyface. Then you've got a guy who is out for blood, and retribution is the only thing that matters. And that's how you build a real babyface. And even Rollins might, Rollins out the way, then it becomes about Priest. Rollins can do anything. He can go and do anything he wants. He doesn't even need to hold the belt. It's been great having him holding it, and he's deserved that. But I think there's another story to tell here. And I don't mind the rivalry of Seth and Finn not ending here, but this chapter ending. And maybe it can come back another day for another belt at another time. I think they're destined to meet again here. But I'm happy for it to end in that. If that happens, I'm happy for it to evolve and go that way, because I don't think they can. I think the series between these two needs to end here definitively with a Balor victory. I think so. We can go elsewhere, but the tragedy of him losing it straight away is almost tantalizing.
Yeah, I do see that. I worry for Seth because he's finally got, a world title. If he were to lose here, I don't see how he would ever claw his way back up to being like a top champion, because I think it just diminishes him. But also for dramatic effect, it does feel like you should go the other way. And there's a lot more story to be told if Finn were to win. How that affects Money in the Bank and things like that. So I see that point, but I just worry for Seth more than anything.
Well, Rollins is fine. Like, no amount of burial or no amount of losses or anything at all could ruin Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is under the table. He's a made man in WWE. Finn still needs that moment. Still needs that thing to get back to where he really should be. And he's right. Like, his losses allowed Rollins to become this generational talent. And I'm of the view that Rollins has got another crack at Roman Reigns before Roman Reigns' title is over. Well, let's say the Usos are swept aside. Obviously, that bloodline story is going to go on for a while yet. But I also like the idea of Jay going to the back of the queue and that bubbling over and Rollins being like, right, I haven't got the heavyweight. I'm coming after the unified, because Roman, I think I'm the only man who can take you down. Because Brock can't have a go at him still. Cody has to climb his way back up. I think if anybody's going to have another crack at Roman Reigns while they spin the wheels until WrestleMania, it does make sense to be Seth. So that's what I would do with Seth in the interim. But Seth doesn't actually need a belt. He just needs a good story. Like, Seth's one of these wrestlers who he has to have a belt periodically every now and then, but he doesn't need it all the time. He can go off and do other stuff and be just fine.
He's got that Roddy Piper style thing where, he doesn't have to have. I mean, Piper never had the main belt ever, so he's got that going for him. But I see a lot of Roddy Piper and Seth Rollins is that you can chuck him against anyone. That it will elevate what he's in. But for me, this match, I just want to see a 15-minute epic battle that they and kind of go back to that SummerSlam that they had 7 years ago and one up that match, because that was a good match, but I think they could do even better. I think now they just need to completely, and I'll steal it because it's in Detroit, they're in Motor City, get themselves into fifth gear, get themselves like proper going, and you just kind of let them go at it for ages, and then do whatever drama you got to do at the end.
Hit sport mode.
Hit sport mode, yeah. If you've got
pump some NOS.
Yeah. And we're going to move on to one of two women's matches, which we will kind of talk about the kind of uproar on social media about this as well. But this is an MMA rules match between Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. I'm quite excited for this one. I think they've done a pretty decent job of of kind of weaving this story. It was a bit of a shock at Money in the Bank when Shayna turned her back on Ronda. I thought they explained it in very simple terms. I was a little bit worried about how the promo kind of battles would go, but if anything, I think this has kind of really elevated Shayna out of this. I don't know if their intention was for her to be the face, but that's the way it's gone. such is life. But if it's to be believed, then Ronda's going to take a little bit of an absence here. So for me, I'll say straight away, I don't see anything other than a Shayna win here. And I think she should absolutely brutalize Ronda to really make her back into NXT style Shayna as well.
Yeah, I've loved it so far. It's been great. I'm really enjoying the battle of the horsewomen in a way. I actually think they should have done this. I think they did it a little bit too early, this feud. But if Ronda's going off to do other things, then and she wants to help put over Shayna as best she can before she goes, it makes all the sense in the world. Broner's, I nearly said. Baszler's promos have been outstanding. She's like, both of them are still a little bit ropey on the mic, a little
but they
bit.
can get away with it because it's basically like when you have two MMA or UFC, they're not like, it's not going to be smooth as butter in terms of throwing professional wrestlers or superstars in who are kind of like, that's their bread and butter. These have had to learn that trick and that trade, and it kind of feels more legit because it feels more like a UFC sparring, like war of words, and it works for these two. But Shayna has hit another level for me, and I'm so happy for her as well.
I love the idea of Ronda saying, "Well, you're just a knockoff version of me. You're just you're just the thing they book when they can't get me." I love that because that's what a few ignorant fans have said about her over the years. And this is the moment where we either see if that's true or not. And like we all know it isn't, but it has been the attitude some people have had. So this will give Shayna the ability to walk out of Ronda's shadow and her to become the killer. And I think if she is victorious at SummerSlam over Ronda Rousey, it's a career-making moment for her. And I really hope I want to see her go on and have a feud with Rhea Ripley. Shayna Baszler is a babyface. She could be one of the top baby faces in the company. Let's see her go up against Rhea. Let's see it. Those two absolutely annihilate each other. Let's do it. I can't wait. I know. I think one's on Raw and one's on some. Oh no, they're both on Raw, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah. It's a weird one. I think when they were doing the split, were they not tag champs or something? So I don't know which one they settled on, but
the story's been playing out on Raw. Both storylines have been playing out on Raw. So then, if that's the case, blimey, like. Get a move on, guys. Why aren't you doing these two killers up against each other after this, of course? And that's assuming Shayna Baszler wins. You're number 3.
Yeah, and it would be the thing I'm really interested to see about this MMA rules match is it's very easy to make it into a sort of submission, which is what I thought they might have done. But MMA, you'd think that knockouts would work as well. So are they going to gimmick it, or are they going to literally because they've got experience, let them have a bit of a match? Like, it's an interesting one to see how far they go with this MMA style. I'd be disappointed if they don't, change a little bit, maybe with the referee's presentation or something. Get someone legit from UFC into, I don't know the referees, but get someone to, announce and referee it from UFC. I don't know if they've got a big event this weekend or not. They normally do. So yeah,
it's their sister company now. It's their sister company.
That's what I mean.
You think to get Bossman on the phone and go, "Hiya, boss. Right, we're doing this. We're thinking this." Like, it is about time UFC and WWE did a little bit more to scratch each other's backs now that they're owned by the same people. Wasn't that the point? It's get the two biggest names in real and fake combat sports and help them elevate each other. UFC can learn a lot from WWE's style of selling matches and selling events, and WWE can benefit from the legitimacy of UFC. There's so much potential there. They really need to start working it. But I think this has got to be a submission finish. It's got to be.
You'd think, but I mean, because that's the only way I see Shayna winning. But if Ronda's going to win, it could be a knockout, I guess. But it'd be a weird, like, unless you're going to legitimately let them go at it for not like a knockout, but you know what I mean. They're going to have to throw some punches, etc. But maybe they're going to do it more along the lines of they'll have a couple of rounds, or they'll have like people in their corner. I don't know what Jessamine Duke's doing these days, but maybe you could get her to be in one of their corners or something. But Yeah, I'm interested to see the presentation on this one more than anything. But again, this has surprised me that I'm as into it as I am. I thought it had the potential to flop, but they've done everything very well with it.
I can't wait. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. Speaking of excited, I'm very excited at the thought of Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes #3. So this is a rubber match between the two of them. Quite surprisingly, just a straight up wrestling match. We haven't been told there's any kind of gimmick or anything, unless there's one announced on the night. There was speculation that there was going to be some sort of gimmick introduced that we hadn't seen in a while. I remember seeing those headlines, but that's not come to fruition. So instead, we just get a third straight up wrestling match between the two of them. Arguably, outside of the Bloodline, the main event, this is probably one of the ones that's had the longest in terms of some sort of storyline behind it. We've had broken arms, we've had busted faces, we've had a lot of war of words and a lot of kind of like backstage attacks and stuff like that. How excited on a scale of 1 to 10 are you for this match, Sam?
Well, it's to be fair, there's a lot of stuff on the card that I'm really excited for. I'm 9 out of 10 excited for the whole card, and Brock versus Cody 3 is a significant portion of that. But yeah, I am super excited for this. The thing I want to see, for starters, I want to see a good match. I don't want to see a 3-minute Brock snooze fest where he does 3 moves and it's over. I do love the idea of him beating the hell out of Cody. I want Cody to then make a comeback after the heat and win that definitively. And I don't want it to be a Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar finish either or anything like that. I want to see a definitive Cody Rhodes win. And I don't want him to out-wrestle him based on a fluke as well, because the last victory was Cody was the better wrestler, not the better fighter, but he outmaneuvered Brock and got the pin. And that's what it was. I want to see him out-fight Brock this time. That's what I want. It might be a little bit unrealistic, Cody, but I think that is what's needed. But there's one more thing that's needed as well. And for the love of God, tell us, WWE, why Brock attacked Cody after Mania. That's the thing that's got me invested. Like, prove me wrong. I have said live on stream in front of lots of people, because it was one of those streams that did really, really well on the SmackDown ones. I have said publicly that you don't know what you're doing. And that was just something you decided to do on the sperm of the moment, as Jim Cornette would say. Prove me wrong. Make there a reason for this story. Make there a reason for, like, it's been a good feud, and the feud makes sense. Now, what's the foundation of it? Why did Brock do that attack? Mm-hmm. Because, let's be honest, it doesn't make sense. Because go back to last year's SummerSlam, Brock lost to Roman Reigns. The stipulation is he now cannot challenge for either the WWE or the Universal Championship again while Roman holds it. So it's in Brock's interest to get those belts off Roman as quick as possible on anybody else. Because the minute Roman's not holding it, Brock is back in the picture. Brock can't hold any of those belts. Well, that one now belt. He can go after Seth, I suppose. But he can't hold the belt that he wants until Roman loses it. So why the hell would they delay him losing it? It makes no sense. This needs some logical storytelling now. We've had our little flip-flop where Vince came back and swung his whatever around. Triple H is back in control in terms of the booking, for the most part. Let's fix this story. But more than that, let's have a great match as well. That lasts more than 2 minutes. There you go, rant over.
Yes, and the only thing I would say is, are they really going to give us an explanation at the back end of a feud? That I just don't see now that they're going to do that. I think it's
better late than never.
They're probably more self-aware now, unless there's some way that they spin it into the kind of video package that happens before the match, and you kind of have a sit down with Brock where he's like, "I did it because I don't know
for The Rock."
Well, no, he could just be a case of I did it because I'm Brock Lesnar and I do whatever I want. And that's probably going to be the reason they would give. Or it could be a case of I did it because all I hear is Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes. But like at the end of the day, if people want to talk about someone, I'm the person they should be talking about. And it's always been about Brock Lesnar. That's all I can really think of that they could justify it with. I
think they need to go deeper. I think they need to go deeper. I do. I know it's not WWE's way. But they are capable of doing this. They are capable of.
But why would Brock Lesnar do anything? Because Brock Lesnar is like, we've always known him as, he's a killer. He does what he wants. He's, like he's his own beast. He doesn't have to give anyone a reason.
But that's okay. That's okay. He's F5ing someone and then grinning and walking off. That's fine. But it was a sustained beatdown with a high level of manipulation to get there, where he even put the frighteners up Roman Reigns and all of that. So there was, it was so premeditated. I think there does need to be a really good reason behind it. And I don't.
It's more likely to be like that thing on the in-between is like, why did you do that? And he's gonna be like, funny. And that's literally all it's going to be, because like it's Brock Lesnar. He doesn't owe or will give anyone an explanation for what he does. He's just Brock Lesnar. But that is the answer.
If that is the case, let Cody figure it out and then confront Brock with that. And then Brock goes Iago from Othello and refuses to give the answer. Refuses, like when Iago says to Othello, why in Shakespeare's play, why did you do this to me, Iago? What on earth have you ruined my life for? And Iago just goes, I'm not going to tell you. Let's have it like that. Let's have Cody figure it out. Like the reader can figure out what's up with Iago, but have Brock never have the balls to say it.
I just think if they were going to do that, they would have had to have done it before now. Like that's too deep to go into, just before a rubber match, unless Cody's pulling away, telling sort of Batman style, saying like, "Tell me, like, why did you do this?
Why?
Yeah.
Why? I'm not telling you. Why? They could do that. Yeah, I'd take that. I'd take that. Maybe, but it would have been good if this was an I Quit match or a submission match or something like that. And that was like how the only way Brock can submit is to reveal it. So I don't know. But again, this is the rubber match, and they haven't gone down that road. But I'm just saying it's a loose end that I think they could get a lot of creative mileage out of tying up.
Quite possibly. I'm going to go Cody on this one, by the way, because I think in terms of who it serves better moving into the future, I think you need a comprehensive Cody win, as you say, not a roll-up pin, not a reversal into a pin. Am I right in thinking Brock's win was because he passed out? Cody passed out?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, did he choke him out? Am I right in thinking?
Yeah, I think
he was injured arm. He had an injured arm though. He had a bad wing, didn't he, Cody? So he couldn't. He wasn't 100%. Yeah, Cody needs to out-fight Brock, not just out-wrestle, not just schoolboy him like he did, because that was smart. Like Cody thought, right, I'm going to struggle out fighting this guy, but I can out wrestle him. So that was a great way of doing it for the first match, and it drove Brock bonkers. But for the third match, Brock's not going to be quite so easily schoolboyed, so Cody needs to reach in and find his inner warrior. And if he does that and has a definitive win, then he'll look very, very strong. And like Rollins, it doesn't matter if Lesnar takes a loss. He's Brock bloody Lesnar. It just doesn't matter.
So Cody can win before Bray Wyatt comes back and faces him off.
Oh, yeah. I hope so.
Moving on to the second and final women's match of the night. And before we kind of go into it, maybe it's worth addressing the elephant in the room, that is the stuff that's going around on social media at the moment, where it feels like there's a bit of a movement, not just in WWE, but across the industry when it comes to women's wrestling, that there's certain people that aren't on the card. Rhea Ripley's not on the card. We've got the women's tag team champions are not on the card. There's a lot of women who aren't on the card, put it that way, which is kind of starting this new movement on social media. What are your thoughts in terms of like the matches that are on there, the matches and the people who aren't on there? Are you disappointed there's not more women's matches? Not to put you on the spot, tell me honestly, right. do you feel like there should have been at least one more women's match here? Or is the card stacked enough already and they're just trying to focus elsewhere, away from people like Rhea Ripley, who are always going to be okay because they've got a big star already? A lot of questions in there, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll try and answer them all in one way. So, Becky Lynch was supposed to be on here against Trish Stratus.
Yeah.
And now they're not. That, I think, is a bit weird. Like I've said it before, utilize the pre-show. Like, it's okay to just stick a couple of even if the title matches, stick like the NXT women. No, sorry, like the women's tag teams. That's perfect for the pre-show.
Battle Royale could have been on
Yeah, maybe it will be. Like, get that on the pre-show. Get Austin Theory maybe on the pre-show. But the thing, like, so it would be Austin Theory. I'd have Becky Lynch versus Trish, the tag belts, but there's another. It's the Rhea Ripley thing that I can't get past. Why is Rhea Ripley not on this card? Like, I get they're trying to do WWE are trying to do more bite-sized pay-per-views, but I don't think that's the way. Because look at I know AEW sometimes put on these massive 14 match cards and they take forever. And but sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But I think for SummerSlam, it's okay for it to be a big card. It's okay for it to be a bit long. Like I get if TLC or Fastlane is only 6 or 7 matches and not every belt or every performer makes it on. Yeah, all right, cool. But SummerSlam does need all the big belts on there. I think if you want us to see it as a mini mania, make it a mini mania, guys, and either that or make it a 2-day thing, or I don't know, go back to brand split pay-per-views if to give everybody a shot, because nobody got left off the card then. They had their own problems, but everybody got a shot. Everybody got a moment to shine. If they had 7 or 8 matches, we got on each pay-per-view. They had time to really move. Okay, you that's how you ended up with Big Cass versus the Big Show with Enzo in a shark cage, because you've got to fill space on the card. But you also get, it's how you build stars and momentum, and it's how, because sometimes people on TV doesn't matter. I'm bored of seeing the Alpha Academy versus Viking Raiders. If you put that on a pay-per-view, though, all right, I'll give it more time. But right now, I'm fast forwarding that because I've seen it. So
you say that, but even those matches have been very good. So it's a little bit difficult to kind of.
But it doesn't put the TV matches. It's spinning the wheels with the kiddies on TV. So I'm going to fast forward that if I've already seen it.
Put a really good. How many times does Chad Gable need to have an absolute classic? He had an amazing match on Monday against Gunther.
Yeah, that I watched.
He had an amazing match the week before where they had the Viking Rules tag team match. That was a great match. He is week in, week out proving himself. He is nowhere to be seen on here. The tag team champions, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, are nowhere to be seen. I don't necessarily think it stops with the women who are missing off the card. There's a lot of people missing off the card in general, but in response, they then need to go, okay, so the reason we're kind of saying Trish and Becky aren't going to be on the SummerSlam card is because we could give them way longer on a Raw. Okay, then prove it. You've got to give them 20, 30 minutes then, because you can't say they're not getting enough time and then just give them 2-3 minutes in the ring. It's the same on AEW. AEW aren't giving their women enough time on TV. There's very few, other than maybe Impacts, that actually give consistent time to their women's wrestling. But I'm not having it on SummerSlam that's the be all and end all, is because it's the women who are missing out, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are sat at home or not on the card that are pissed off that aren't women. As say, for me, the big 4 pay-per-views where you have the Royal Rumble, you have SummerSlam, Survivor Series and WrestleMania would normally be exclusively, you'd have all the belts on, because they're supposed to be the prestigious premium live events, pay-per-views, whatever you want to kind of call them. But I just think in here, we've started to have a bit more of a stacked roster, because if you went down that route, then you don't get Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. So there's a match straight away that you don't get. So if you what do you do with that kind of feud? So as I say, for me, there's a lot more to it than just the women are missing out. Yes, they maybe could have put one more match on but then again, where's the storyline? Because you say that you want Rhea Ripley on, but Rhea Ripley's very busy at the moment helping Dom, or being in the corner for Finn, or breaking up the Judgment Day stuff. So it's who would she go against? Because it's too early to have against Raquel. Who else is a plausible person that she could have a decent match with?
this is why it shouldn't always be about storyline. It should sometimes be about some form of ranking. Who's top of the card right now before SummerSlam in the women's division? Who's not the champ? Who's number one contender naturally via wins?
Yeah.
And make that the case. Make that the match. Have Adam Pearce come out and go, right, we've been looking at who's been winning. You haven't got an opponent for SummerSlam, Rhea Ripley. Like, there doesn't always need to be like a big builder of feud. Because like in boxing and in UFC and stuff like that, there isn't. Sometimes it's just about the next person in line to get the shot. And WWE have done that so many times in the past. You can do it again. Just do it. You know, if somebody doesn't have a match or a feud, find who's top, and they're the champ. Find who's top of the card and say, right, this is the person you're up against. They don't have to win. It doesn't have to be a prolonged story. They just have to put on a match. As long as it makes creative sense.
The risk, you then get this stuff where you get like Rhea versus Natalya, and it was over before, like, you know, their entrances were longer than the match itself. So it's kind of
so
like
be it. So be it.
No, I don't agree, especially not on SummerSlam. That would be such a waste of everyone's time to do that. And let's face it, if they really wanted to get another match in, let's just not have 8 promos about Charlotte Flair or Austin Theory that are going to play between matches, because Peacock have got some weird structured or tiered pay thing that you've got to go through in America, because it's annoying. They did it on NXT last weekend. That was annoying enough. I don't want to see it. I'd rather just sneak into the match in, but I get there's commercials behind it, etc. But the quicker we can get back onto just like a network, the better, because I can't be bothered with seeing those. We have talked at great length, by the way, about everything else but this match. So I'm very keen to get onto this one, because there's been a bit of a, you know, they have built this up over the last few weeks, and there's 3 very capable, very talented women in this match. Asuka versus Bianca Belair versus Charlotte. Do you see a title change here, or is this going to be it's, you know, a good match, but Asuka sneaks out, or definitive for Asuka?
I'm praying to the old gods and the new. Game of Thrones reference there. That Asuka retains, because I kind of want to see Io Sky versus Asuka, or Bayley versus Asuka. That is kind of where I want to go with this. I like what they're doing with Io and Asuka. I don't like when Asuka starts going, just play it straight. Just play it straight. Have her be the killer she was on NXT. I don't want to see the silliness. I just want to see her being terrifying and like getting close to people. Like, you know, when she does that, like, she's so good at being scary, and then they ruin it. So yeah, I want to see Asuka retain. I want Bianca and Charlotte to go and take a holiday. I don't know, and come back before the build up to Mania, because I'm just a little bit bored of both of them. I think they're both phenomenal talents. I think they're both certified Hall of Famers. I want to see someone else for a bit, or give them a good story, or put them in a good story, without the usual, oh, I'm the queen, or spinning the hair. Girl, I have, like, I'm at the point where I'm soon going to be fast forwarding them until Asuka's music hits and I press play again.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing Bianca kind of screwed over in some respects, that Charlotte kind of cost the match, and then that's the thing, kind of flips her. She doesn't have to be a heel, but give her a bit of an edge. You know, she doesn't have to be friendly to everyone all the time. Give her an edge that she kind of snaps because Charlotte lost the match, and she just starts destroying people. And then that leads to a possible cash in. And then we can have that feud between Io and Asuka, which I think everyone's kind of waiting for now.
It's also, sorry, dude, sorry to jump in. Do you want to quickly let's actually finish what you're saying? I was going to say there's also the Bayley storyline to consider. I'm very much hoping Io cashes in on Asuka. Looks like she's going to win, and then Bayley smashes her from behind, and then go. That sounded a bit dodgy, didn't it? You know what I mean? With the briefcase.
And then we'll move on.
Well, I was going to say, and then that's for climbing over me at the Money in the Bank, you bitch. You know, that is what I want to see. I actually want to see Io Sky fail, and her feud with maybe Asuka and Bayley together. I don't know, but that's what I want to see.
Fair enough. I would rather see Io Sky actually get the belt when she does cash in. So I'm a big EO fan.
Oh, yeah, me too. But where's the fun? Where's the drama in that? It's over too easy. Where's the struggle? Where's the baby face building? She's still a
Yeah,
heel.
there
She's
should
still
be
a heel.
there should
She
be the
hasn't.
Curry style thing, but Oscar's a heel.
Yeah, I know, but she's still like, if we're gonna have that feud with Io being a babyface, Io needs to do the Sami Zayn thing. She needs her redemption. Her way to get redemption is to be attacked, double crossed by her old boss, defeat her old boss definitively, and earn her shot at Asuka organically. That is by wins.
She was a better heel in NXT though.
Yeah, no, but no, her being a heel in NXT, the Joshi Judas failed because she was too over. They turned her heel as the Joshi Judas, and within about a month or so, she was just this kind of babyface figure who still had the same cool entrance. She's too cool to do that. She needs to be a babyface. She can be like a dark, creepy babyface, but she needs to get there. You can't just wake up tomorrow and decide she's going to be a babyface because she's the champ. There has to be some, surely there has to be some long blood between her and Bayley, some feud between her and Bayley. Are they going to turn Bayley face at the same time, or is surely Bayley's going to betray her? Everyone has seen the build up to that. They are doing it.
It certainly seems so, but we'll wait and see. That's all we can do at this point. Which brings us to what I would imagine is going to be the main event of the night. It's a pretty easy shout, I would say. That it's going to be Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns in is it a tribal combat match? Is that what they're calling it? Tribal combat?
Yeah, I don't know what that entails. I think it's just a street fight with some torches.
Quite possibly. But yeah, this is without doubt the one that's got the most build. It's probably got a lot of intrigue about it. There's a few things that kind of could happen. There's some speculation that it means that it should just be the two of them and no one's allowed to kind of get involved because there's a lot of sort of prestige and heritage about it being tribal combat. And will Solo kind of break that? And that's where Roman and him kind of have a bit of a fallout? Or are we going to see Jimmy? Are we going to see Jimmy have a turn and rejoin with Roman and kind of do a bit of a flip-flop there? Be very interesting to see how we go. Brian kind of said this bloodline business has had some incredible high points, but it needs to end soon or it will tarnish its own reputation. Tribal combat equals no DQ. Yeah, it certainly seems that it's just another way of saying street fight, no DQ. It'd be interesting to see if it's like a Falls Count Anywhere or if it's got to be in the ring. Presumably they'll have some sort of rules read out at the beginning or by commentary or something that will kind of clear that up quite early on. Do you agree? Is it time for the bloodline to storyline to finish?
No, hell no, because it's there's a lot. It needs to evolve. It can't just stay the same. But the whole Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso rebelling against Roman Reigns thing, that's just getting good. That's just getting going. We had all the Sami Zayn stuff. We had them all being on the same page. Then Sami broke away. Now they're circling back to the beginning, which is Jey standing up to Roman. This is where this whole thing began. So no, I think it's going at the exact pace it needs to go at. And considering it's helping the ratings in the way that it is now, they shouldn't drag it out. I'm not saying they should drag it out, but it's not got boring, not once. So I actually think this whole feud ends at Mania. That's where this ends. And what I mean by that is I think the Usos are going to get out. You've heard me fantasy book this a million times, Andy. So, but I think Roman's story ends at WrestleMania when he circles back around to Cody. I think he looks weaker and weaker and weaker all the way up to that because he loses the bloodline. I think eventually the story becomes the Usos trying to essentially rescue Solo from him. But I think Jey needs to go up against Roman and look strong in defeat. But then the story needs to become all about Solo being because let's be honest, since Drew McIntyre, Solo's been the one winning for Roman all those times. Solo has been the difference maker. So that's what I like. But I think there's a lot more story to tell. And for me, I think as long as they tell it right, this can go up to WrestleMania, I think. But then have Roman. If Roman loses the belt there, that's where the bloodline story ends. And Cody's ending the story thing can actually have two meanings. It can mean him ending the story of what he set, and it can mean the ending this story as well. I think it'd be nice, it'd be poetic for it to have a dual meaning, and one that we don't actually realize until it happens. That could actually be pretty nice, pretty creative. But no, hell no, do I want this to end anytime soon? Hell no. I just want it to stay good. But the minute it does start showing signs of fatigue, maybe it is time to do something else.
Yeah, I definitely think this is one of the ones that, when they've sat down creatively, they've thought, we can spin this for X amount of months. This is what we're going to do. This is the beginning point. This is the end point, and they'll kind of fill in the gaps as they go. The story definitely seems to be that's still left and still has kind of mileage in it is Solo versus Roman. How that kind of takes on, and whether Paul Heyman's kind of goes with Solo or Paul Heyman stays. But it definitely feels like it will get down to the point where it is Roman and Roman alone that has to face Cody next time, because everyone else has turned away from him. And you've seen the story at 39 was he was helped by everyone. And then when he hits WrestleMania 40 or whenever that is, he's got no one left to help him.
Yeah,
maybe.
Again, sorry, mate, go
on. I have a couple of questions, though. Does that mean that Jey Uso has zero chance of winning here? And also, if he was to win, in however that would happen, if Jey Uso does win that belt when everything's said and done, does it go down as one of the biggest upsets in the company's history?
Yeah, it really, really would. And I'd pop if it happened. I'd be happy to be wrong. But like you could still do that story even with that, but you'd have to do a very different version of it. Like Jey does have a shot, of course he does, because anything can happen. But if I was writing this story, I would argue that Jey's quest isn't for the belt. It's for his redemption. It's to get back his soul, to fight for it back from Roman, who took it and turned him into what he didn't want to be. Jey Uso doesn't need to win this match and win the belt to win back his soul. He just needs to put in a good showing and send Roman staggering to the back and force Roman to cheat to win using Solo. He also needs to sow a seed of doubt in Solo's mind for that victory. That's what Jey needs to achieve here. It's about standing up and being counted. It's like Sami Zayn was the real winner of that match. Yes, he lost. Yes, Roman cheated, but it didn't matter that Sami lost. He still, the match was all about Sami's redemption, and he got it in that match. It's the same thing for Jey here. And maybe it'll be the same thing for Jimmy if he does that. But the story is more about Jey, because Jey was the one who had that shot against Roman at Hell in a Cell and everything that happened there. I actually think they'll repeat the Hell in a Cell match. I don't think this ends here. I honestly do. I think these two are destined to do this a few times. I think coming back, Roman and Jey Uso in Hell in a Cell 2 needs to happen. I don't know how you book it, how you finish it, but if I'm writing this story is all about friendship. It's about brotherhood. It's about acceptance. It's about all those different things. Gaslighting, being part of a crowd, particularly the Sami Zayn stuff. Part of the crowd. Blood not necessarily being thicker than water has been a massive theme here as well. And if they do this story right, it does need to end with like you say, everybody a united front, Roman alone. And the moral of the story needs to be being a bully, being an abuser, being all these things. It will, everybody else will be together. You will be alone. Don't be this guy. Roman Reigns is the bad guy in this story. But if they really need to hammer home what they're trying to say in this story. And I don't think they can do that if Jey just takes the belt off him here. I think they need to. There are other ways of telling that story and teaching the lessons that they're teaching from it. And it has been really good. Like WWE can be a little bit ham-fisted with this stuff, but I have to take my hat off to them in this case.
Go on then.
I know. It's my I love this hat.
Well, there you go. That is the card for SummerSlam. So we could be way off. All we like to do here is get you a little bit excited about watching it, hear your thoughts, have a little bit of a discussion with fellow wrestling fans. But if you're watching this in the future, we'd love to hear your predictions. If it's before it, if it's after it, see how close we were. If we were even anywhere in the ballpark. But it is a good card. There's a lot of matches to look forward to. Really want to say thank you to anyone who's been watching. Thank you to Brian, who's been all the way through. He's been commenting away. I hope you enjoy the show, mate. Have a good weekend as well. Before we go, and if anyone's watching this, whether it's now or in the future, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I feel like I've been stuck on the same amount of subscribers for a little while. I'm trying to edge past that 100. I think at the last time I looked, I've got about 13 to go to get there. And you can help me. 13 away. So try and get me above 100. Hopefully by the end of the week, if not the end of August or something. But we'll get there. But I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this, because I know there's a lot of other channels out there that do some great work. But you can just come and have a nice chat with us. That's all we're trying to do here. And speaking of nice chats and nice people, coming up in about 15 minutes, you got the Gimme a Hole Yeah. They are going to be going through their team. They are going to be going through their predictions. So you'll see Sam's face again and hear some of the same things.
Don't tell them that, you'll put them off.
You'll hear some different voices. You'll hear the very energetic Dom, who's probably going to let me down now and be really flat. You've got Dan, and you've got Anth, it's always interesting to see those two interacting, especially about WWE. So it's well worth a watch. And then straight after that, you can stay on and you can watch SmackDown or watch along SmackDown with Sam.
You can watch me watch SmackDown. The believe it or not, there is actually value in doing so.
And there's a good community of people on there as well. Lots of people will be commenting, lots of people to talk to, lots of fellow wrestling fans who are there just to have a good time in the early hours of the UK morning or late night USA, because there's a few American fans that you get on that channel as well. So always good to see. But Sam, anything that you would like to plug? I know you've had a couple of Impact interviews recently.
Yeah, there's been a few. So I interviewed. I'm getting tired. I've forgotten the chap's name. Let me just bear with me a moment, Andy. If you can just give me a minute to get it up on screen.
No.
So yeah, I'd like to plug WrestleSphere, of course, which is our website where we interview wrestlers and movers of shakers in the industry. I know you've had a lot of content on there as well, Andy, recently, which has been great to see as we kind of span out, because before that it was largely just kind of me and Dom. And I get, we've got beautiful faces and all, but it's nice to have make this a three-party system. So we've recently had a chat with Josh Chernoff, who's basically going to be the host of StarCast this year, and he's the vice president of the Premier Streaming Network. He and I sat down for about an hour and a half, and we were talking about all sorts of stuff, talked about wrestling, talked about StarCast, Premier Network. Josh is essentially planning on building a new wrestling universe, really, around the Premier Wrestling Network. And the big news coming out of that interview was they're creating a belt, and that belt is going to do the rounds in tons of promotions, including MLW and places like that. So that's going to be quite interesting. It feels a little bit like the NWA belt, which made its way around so many different territories and things. It's the same kind of thing, and I'm quite excited to see how they do it. So yeah, have a little read of my interview with Josh. We can, if you like. There's no video for that one. It's just a written article. But exciting times ahead, and not just for StarCast, but for what that belt, the Premier Wrestling Championship, is going to represent in the industry, particularly the independent. Because it's going to almost be not above all the other world championships, but it's certainly going to be something everyone in the industry is going to want. That's for damn sure. And also in WrestleSphere this week, this is one for the UK fans. We spoke to Alex Shelley and Gail Kim the other day. I asked them about, are they ready for the rowdiness of the UK crowd? And it was nice to get their reaction, because we all know now, after Money in the Bank, what the UK crowd is and how loud and crazy we are. Impact and AEW are both well aware of it. and everybody's kind of either a little bit intimidated or quite psyched by it. So it's fun to see what different wrestlers say. And finally, final plug, because I'm going on now. Give me a haul, yeah. That's our podcast. Come and join us at 10:30 in about 15 minutes. And then join us again at 1 a.m. for SmackDown. Andy, you're welcome to join us as well if you want, unless you want to get to your family at some point, or you can jump on with us at 10:30. Completely up to you.
Well, we'll see. I'll keep you in suspense to see whether you're going to see me. But yeah, go follow Russell Spear. Great work.
Yeah, that was good. If nobody knows what that joke is YouTube's captions thing. Heard WrestleSphere and interpreted it to Russell Spear. So we had a good giggle on Twitter about that. If you follow me, you can see it. I thought it was quite funny. Probably funnier for me than anyone else.
Go follow WrestleSphere. Go follow Gimme Hole. Yeah, I'm going to give Sam a little bit of time to go crack open a can of Monster before he starts his next epic video, which you may or may not see me on. You may or may not see me commenting on. So I'll keep you in suspense. Go find out if I make an appearance. If I don't make an appearance, there's 4 very talented guys who'll be talking anyway, followed by a SmackDown stream. As I said, go hit the like button, go hit the subscribe button, and help out the channel. It's been absolutely amazing having a chat with you about SummerSlam, Sam. I hope you have a great weekend if I don't speak to you again. But if not, we'll see you next Friday. And I'll put out a little bit of a tweet what we'll be talking about throughout the week. But as always, I have been Andy. He's been Sam. This has been Wrestling Royalty. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you really soon.